Hey, welcome everyone to the Optix stream. We're back, Emily and John, the dynamic duo. Emily, we're definitely we've been on a roll. I mean, I think we've been doing a pretty good job with these races, identifying bad favorites, some long shots over the whole sequence of going through these Triple Crown preps. And we got two new ones this week. You got the Florida Derby, which is a big one, and obviously the race in. What's the other one we have? What do you think?
Arkansas Derby.
Arkansas Derby. Thank you very much. That was actually a better race, I think, from a betting perspective than probably the Florida Derby. But who knows? See what
I think they're pretty much both fairly straightforward. I think a lot of the other ones have been a little bit fuzzy. There's been some favorites that were a little bit suspect, at least in the first couple weeks. And I think as we saw last week, and we're going to start there going over those results, pretty kind of formful. We're starting looking at the Fairgrounds there. I mean, I don't think you and I were crazy about the favorite or the horse that won, not the favorite, but a horse that, based on the way that race shape played out, was able to just kind of lope along and get the trip.
Yeah. Much different than the Risen Star, which was turn it upside down, right? The Risen Star was all the horses that came out of the Risen Star who came off the pace were a disadvantage in this race. So,
well, I think sometimes they overcorrect. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and in a longer distance, they might have tactics wise changed things and so forth. The horse that we kind of thought would be value and ran a good race. Disarm ran a decent second there. No one was catching a winner, but I thought he ran pretty well. But we were, the big thing I think was we were against the favorite in that race, and he did not, instant coffee. He didn't really show up. I mean, there were things about him distance-wise and stuff that we didn't like. And I mean, if you just really took our second and third choices out of that race, if you look at the, I guess it was this is the Optix, rankings we had. Instant Coffee was the favorite. We had him at 5-1, and then Disarm and Kings Barnes. That was our second and third choices. So if you kind of take the favorite out and just use those two horses, I guess you did okay, because it was a pretty, decent exact, 4-1 over 7.8 to 1. So
yeah. I mean, I just, I have I just, we talked about that race going in, that it just felt kind of like a weaker race all around, and the way that it played out, just nothing from there that really excites. I know some people are like, going wise guy on Disarm, and I thought Disarm, was fine, but I don't know if that horse is very good, to be honest. I mean, the trip wasn't that great given the pace scenario, but he just didn't have like that type of brilliance that, like, when you're watching trips, this comes up with like trips, right? It's like horse has trouble, and you're like, that horse could have gone, so much faster or whatever. It's like, I don't know. I don't know from Disarm. And the same thing with Sun Thunder, and with Sun Thunder going in, I suggested that race was probably going to be a regress, and they were going to sit a little bit closer to the pace, which they did on both accounts. But another horse that he's just going to have to find another gear as far as the Derby.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, and I mean, as far as King's Barn, I mean, that's if he gets that, he's not going to ever get that trip again. Let's put it that way. He's not getting that, not at least in this series. He's not going to get that trip ever again.
Yeah, I mean, so far, I mean, I know we don't like to look too forward to the race, the Derby, because lots of things happen. But I'm still Forte and Arabian's line just seem like.
Well, Arabian Night can't win.
Oh, he's out?
He's been done for a few weeks. Yeah, he's off the trip.
Okay. There goes mine. So right now, I mean, it's be interesting to see how Forte runs this weekend, because he just seems to be well above these horses at this point in time. So we'll see. The other race was at the Turfway Park, but you like to call it the Outback Stakes, the Jeff Ruby. I mean, I think this is a favorite we were kind of against. I mean, I thought the play was the 4, just looks like there's distance limitation with that horse, but he had a pretty good trip, and I got a little pressure, but I thought he was the value in that race. He ran third. We were a little bit against Major Dude. He ran second. Two Phils was the other horse we thought, at least I thought he had, I kind of liked his chances. And he just ran away with the race. You didn't like the race. I thought he ran a pretty good race. Big number, came back. Again, it's a different surface, so you got to kind of take things with a grain of salt, but 108 on our Optix fig, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the number is what it is, got the B+. Can't deny that. I just think that field overall was just so weak from like a visual standpoint, and to your point of being like, well, the barn excels on synthetic and, et cetera, I could almost make the same case that I don't know if Two Phils repeats that effort in a different scenario.
Oh, it'd be tough press to do that, I think.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the same thing. I think we're going to see that the next, couple weeks. It's like similar type.
Yeah, let's see the things shake out. So let's go to to Saturday's race. We're going to start with the Gulfstream Park, the Florida Derby, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
And I know you wanted to talk about something about post position in this.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't I just kind of turn the floor over? We could talk about post position, and then I got some information too I want to share about post position. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, the reason that I brought it up is like so much of the commentary was like, quote from Todd Pletcher that I don't really know the context of, and I should have it ready. I don't have it like sitting in front of me, but just that the gist of it being that from these outside posts at this distance, it's a statistical disadvantage, especially for these big races, which I think if that quote like isn't, it is what it is, it's fine, but I don't know if it directly relates to this particular horse in this particular race, right? Because you could kind of take it, I don't know what the context of that was, and I think a lot of times trainers are the questions are asked trainers in certain ways, and trainers are delivering answers in certain ways that kind of, I don't know if it's like they make for TV or they make for the content, but it's like where you're just kind of like, people are just saying stuff, but nothing's really like being said, like I was getting in the conversation on Twitter the other day with, so-and-so said that X horse is the greatest horse. They've never had one like it. It's like, well, what are they supposed to say? Right. With these owners that spend a bunch of money. Well, this one's all right, we'll see how it goes. That sometimes it's like I just don't know how to read. If I have like, different connections with people, different tells, certain things like that, you could start to know. So, Mike Welsh, I think from DRF, and hopefully I'm quoting it correctly, said that this post is disadvantageous in a large part. Or this, winning from that post is like, what am I trying to say here? That winning from that post is at a large part just due to the post itself, like why that post hasn't won. And I hope that makes sense out there. Like,
they're saying it's almost like, this whole idea is statistically really difficult, and horses will have to overcome so much. I'm not so sure.
Right.
Let me just bring something up so we can get a level set here. So since 2016, they've run 58 races at 9 furlongs. So you could say that the 11 post, I think he's in the 11 post, has never won, and say, okay, see what we're talking about? I mean, whatever. I mean, that's one way of looking at this. The other way to look at it is that only 22 of those races had more than 10 horses in the race. All right, so you're only talking about a sample size of what actually happened in 22 races over the last 7 years, right? So it's almost like nothing could be statistically impossible because the sample size is too small. But just think about the same time. They probably ran 4,000 races at 6 furlongs in that same period of time versus 22, okay? And I broke it down. I just said, let me break it down, post 1, 2, 3, the most inner post, 4 to 6, a little bit outside 7, 9, and far outside 10 to 12, right? Just to kind of look at it that way. And what you find is that, 4 to 6 had the most wins. And that probably had the greatest impact. It probably would, that probably was it's probably is the better post. I'm not saying that it's not, it's not an advantage to have 10 to 12, but I'm saying it's not impossible, and it really shouldn't factor that much in, especially when you start talking about relative to who the horses are. If you looked at the posts 1 through 3, they had the shortest odds. Well, 10 through 12, the horse that ran in those races, had the longest odds. So you already now, partly it could be because they're in post 10 to 12, but you're still talking about the horses with the longest shot of odds who ran just as well as posts 1 through 3 and 7 through 9. Okay.
Right.
So, it's all relative to who's in the race. Like for instance, Gunrunner overcame it to win the Pegasus World Cup. Okay. What's more, like you could take like our stuff, like 39 circles and 39 squares versus 16 circles won for those races. It was 58 races. I guess 3 were blanks or whatever. They didn't have a circle or a square. So, I mean, that's a little bit, at least that's even better because that's at least relative. We're plotting those horses relative to other horses in the race. Post position, you don't have that relatively. It's just random. You don't know who's going to be in what post. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is it really does, to me, if you have the horse, is there advantage being in a certain post? Yes. Is it difficult to go to the home? No, not that much. Really, the data doesn't show that. So when some people say statistically, you can say post 11 had 0 in that period, but still, 10 to 12 to 12 horse won, and those horses won. Some of those horses won at big odds. 3 of those horses ran at huge odds. So,
well,
anyway.
the most recent example is a horse that didn't win, but Stiletto Boy from post 11 finishing 3rd in the Pegasus World Cup, and why that's kind of relevant to bring up is it's not even so much that the horse finished 3rd. He was 45 to 1 odds, but he ran the same speed figure that he had been running, so he was able to run his race from that post and compete to his abilities, right?
Yes.
And so the stuff that I looked at, I'm glad that you pulled this up from that standpoint, but I went back and I looked at these races and I was like, who are these horses? Like where do they even Steel Sunshine, Clapton, Papatu, Spielberg? Like, have you guys Rogue Element? Have you heard of
these are horses that were in outside post positions that didn't run well? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, these are horses that were like to what you brought up. These are extremely long shot horses that were legitimate long shot horses that
exactly
the post position did them no favors, but also on their own merits. And I could look at the races that they were running in before and after, and they weren't, 9 furlong or graded stakes types horses. So to say that it's the post position solely, or to that quote, in a large part due to the post position, I find that not correct to what you're bringing up right now. It's not a large part due to the post position. It just happens to be who was in that post position.
Yeah. And when you were talking about 22 races over 6 years, only run, 9 furlongs with 10 or more horses on dirt, that's just a very small sample size. So, to make these conclusions is just, I mean, it's like anything else, right? Data, you got to look at it and you got to analyze it. I mean, some people could manipulate it any way they want, but the fact is that here it is. Here's another look at it, maybe a different way of looking at it. And hopefully that if you're especially if you're going to support any of the horses that are the first, second, third choice in this race, I think they're all on the outside, right? I think 10, 11, and 12 are all on the outside, and they're the 3 horses with the best chance to win this race. And I think they will do well because when you compare them to the rest of the field, they just seem to be a lot better. And I think that's what's going to matter.
And again, it goes back to something that we've said over and over again. It's that extra level of critical thinking. And then obviously it comes down to odds and what, are fair odds to you and what those odds you find acceptable, where you're going to factor in post position and trip, which does come down to running style, to your point, who else they have to beat in the race, and how certain posts affect horses. Sometimes it's, if there's no speed, doesn't matter. That horse like Stiletto Boy was able to just go out, was able to get position and clear. A horse like Cyberknife with his running style and his, kind of often rank way of going, that did him no favors, you know?
Right. And then it's
That
just,
was a
it
bad
depends
combination.
it depends on who's drawn inside, you know, and all the rest, right? I mean, so yeah, you got it's all, we always say it all the time. I hate to say it, it sound like a broken record. It's all relational, it's all situational. That's what it's all about. It's all about the situation you're in today. And so that's what we're going to look at. And so this is the plot for the race. Looks like, you know, you got a pretty good, you know, good contention. I think what you have too in this race is you got a lot of horses too that are stretching out. Some, not a lot, but some horses are stretching out. And I don't know, Emily, you know, we'll go through the field here, but I just think the field is extremely weak. I mean, there's just a lot of weak horses in this race. The horses I think don't have much of a chance. I don't know what your feeling was. And I was really kind of with maybe exceptional one horse, I was kind of you know, landing on the outside horses. And then when you look at the plot here, I just want to show you the, you know, the number 11, right, Forte. And you can see he plots in that quadrant 2. And, you know, this is typically good for horses that, you know, like, and I think this is runs kind of fits his style, kind of a mid-pack runner, should be finishing late. I think he could probably follow that 10, you know, over and, you know, maybe slide in, maybe, you know, if that 10 goes, he can follow that horse and maybe get a kind of a mid-pack, 4th, 5th, you know, kind of position and then kick home. And when you look at the track profile for this race, when you look at his quad, this is quad percentages, you see the 10 and the 9 have a very good plot relative to this distance and surface. So that's what I'll be looking at. The 9, actually, you know, the 9, 10, and 11 all do. But that's some of the things I'll be looking at, as opposed to maybe just focusing on something like a post position.
Right.
So that's the plot. You want to just kind of go quickly through the horses?
Sure.
Okay. I'll let you lead because like I said, I'm against a lot of these horses.
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point, I think there's a lot of horses in here that are taking shots and maybe happy to pick up a check underneath. Maybe hope that, you know, there is some chaos or whatever. But in cases where we've made cases in the past for these long shot horses, it's like there's been a rhyme and reason. There's a pattern. We've been able to see it where it's not like, oh, we're taking a shot hoping there's some chaos and maybe I just happen to land on the right 30 to 1 at the right time. It's like we're, you know, where any of these horses that are bigger prices, if they win this race, they had a lot of racing luck from everybody else in the field, right? In order to get that win, and the figure was probably not going to come back that big. So if we're starting on the inside, this is a horse that's coming out of the Grade 3 Withers, Young Frau, off a 49-day break. You had traffic rate drop, and that was a C grade in the Withers. Prior to that, the speed figures are on the slower side. I mean, this horse, he's going to have to improve 20 speed figure points and hasn't shown any type of progression on that level throughout his career.
Right, absolutely. Toss.
West Coast Cowboy and other horses races have been split by the layoff lines. Came up a little bit short in the Grade 3 with the softer race par. Had the extended comment said a decent trip, but also the extended comment said might be just a notch below the top contenders. Not the most efficient action on this horse. As far as Shaq Diesel, the 3, we tried to make a long shot case for him to run underneath in a scenario where he was kind of upgraded in terms of OptixPLOT. Sorry, did you want to say something on it too?
No, I agree. Keep moving.
All right. Yeah, and he just wasn't, you know, he wasn't good enough. I mean, you can make the case well, I know you want to talk about this, the Risen Star being one of those horses that was up close to the pace.
Yeah, it was just a tough pace. I think the horse that when we get to the Arkansas Derby, we'll see, you know, the horse that I like comes out of that race, and he's probably the closest to the pace and hung around the best. But I agree with you. I mean, I'm just concerned about this horse in the distance to begin with, and then the class with this horse. He just kind of looks more like a one-turn horse to me anyway. But you know, I do think he could run better than he did in the Risen Star, just because of that pace. It was wicked. You know,
do you give him enough of a flow upgrade to put back underneath for an underneath spot at a big price?
Yeah, it'd be a stretch. It'd be a stretch.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. As far as the 4, I I thought this horse, he showed run. He's a lightly raced type. Obviously, ran that fast figure on debut. Thought he broke a little bit slow before he had to kind of run wide, and then he was just kind of out kicked late. Just seems like, the regression is not a fan. I'm not like a fan of that. Noting he's going to have to again step up in around 2 turns and go longer and get better out of the gate. And with Saez aboard, it does seem like they're going to probably look for this horse to be on or near the lead. And as you mentioned, you kind of have a lot of those sprinters in the field, which is included with these next 2 runners.
Do you give anything that Saez is on lands here? He was on the winner of the Risen, not the Risen, was it the Risen Star? Yeah, the Risen Star winner. And that horse is coming back in the Arkansas Derby, and he ends up here. Isn't that interesting?
I don't know if there's something else on the Gulfstream Park card that he was like staying for.
I know, but you would just think everybody Derby fever, right? You want to get on.
Well, yeah.
Does he have anybody else that? I guess maybe he has somebody else. I'm not even sure.
That's what like if there's like some other reason. I mean, he's riding. He's riding every race on the card.
Yeah, maybe it's just
what a beast.
He can't be doing it for to win the meet, right? I guess maybe it's the end of the meet too.
Yeah, he's riding all 14. Okay. I mean, keep that. I guess maybe that's something to consider. Is he's going to be riding 13 races before this comes up?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. But I just the fact that he ran so well at in his debut race shows the talent. I agree with your assessment though, and I think he might be actually better on turf, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
These next two horses, they're interesting in the fact that they're both privately purchased. They're running this spot and just have so much to overcome coming out of maiden wins.
And sprinting, sprinting too. This horse was sprinting.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the 5, it's not even coming off a maiden win. Right. But a very good effort all the same. Yeah. Winning type effort despite not getting the win. But I mean, the Nautical Star coming out of Oaklawn Park, just when I'm watching, I wrote on his debut that that the horse just does not have the most efficient action, which is something I also noticed on the 2, just watching that horse work. As far as the 5, I mean, this is a horse that could have some overall upside because at least he's lightly raced. The 5, Mr. Peaks.
Yeah, I like this horse.
Improving.
I like this horse. I don't like him. I don't like him in this race. I think this is a bad race for this horse. I wouldn't. If I was owning this horse, I wouldn't put him in this race. I try to get some more foundation on this horse, but whatever. I can't blame people. They're more bold than I am, but I like this horse. I hope they don't ruin this horse with a race like this, but whatever. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I would say of the horses, this horse has the most upside and ability to kind of develop.
Yes.
It might even handle. I think he's maybe even better a little bit longer. So we'll see. But to your point, it's a tough task. The 7, we thought he was below in both those races, so it's tough to now endorse here. Yeah. The 8, you want to talk on this guy?
No. I just the thing with him is it just seems like he showed a lot of promise in his debut. He's just kind of gone backwards, in both optional claiming races. So I'm a little surprised he's in this race. Just not seeing it. But Joseph seems to be an aggressive guy. He likes to be in all these races. But I don't see it with him either.
Well, the horse that he beat on debut is the 7. So
okay.
He hasn't really been able to kind of step up outside of that. The 9 seems like a horse that's on in every other pattern.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's still some distance concerns with this horse. I mean, he looks great on the plot, but as we brought up the last time that we talked, that sometimes those horses that run those big races, the plot is reacting to that and not necessarily, going back and forth. So it has that kind of every other pattern, still distance tested. Not crazy about him.
Me neither. I think these are the 3 that are going to be interesting, right? These are the 3 horses that have most likely to win.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Fort Bragg?
Well, I mean, you just said it. I mean, he's kind of an upgrade by default, because at this point it's like XXXX, like,
Right.
so
Right.
you're kind of like, well, at least you're not that. So
Right.
I don't
Right.
know what. But yeah, I mean, he ran fine on debut as far as a speed figure out at Del Mar, and then projected to improve with added ground, which he had more success added ground. He started to improve as of late, but again, just another horse that is going to have to get better. There could be some intent to run in this race. They did scratch out of the Southern Derby. You can see that there.
Yeah.
And it did work that day as well. And I watched that work. Um, it's kind of like a runty horse. But, you know,
Yeah, I think he's got a chance. He's got a chance here. For maybe underneath, or never know. But at least he has a chance. I mean, versus the first 9 that we looked at, I think he's got a lot better chance.
yeah, seems slow to me. I agree. I mean, he's not. That's the thing, Charles B. Is that he's not fast, but at least he's like proven to kind of hold himself against good horses in the
Yeah.
graded stakes races.
Yeah, he's got the two turn foundation. He's
Yeah, so he has that going for him, but I mean, to your point, he's not shown to be a very fast animal. No, I mean, honestly, as far as Forte, he hasn't really either. Like, speed figure wise, he's faster than the horses in this group, I guess, in terms of consistency. But does he have
if you could,
forward?
I think he's got to move forward. If you think his last race was kind of more of a prep,
I don't think it was a prep.
Okay, so if you don't see it's a prep, then you might say that he does. And if he slides back a little bit, then Fort Bragg is in the mix, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, let me put it this way. I think he can run. I think he can run the same race, and that race is good enough. Because remember when we did that race, he like checked all the boxes as a favorite. I was like watching his works, and I'm like, this horse is as race ready as he's ever going to be. So I mean, I think he.
But he really got pretty much a perfect trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I just see him getting a similar trip, right? I just think him kind of, like I said, I think he can kind of slide. The 10's probably going to go. He could run with the 10, let that one, go ahead, and he can maybe slide. Maybe he gets a path he can slide in. Yeah, I mean, he's a legitimate favorite.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I was kind of getting a little bit ahead of myself by saying that, because I agree for this race that he can check all the boxes. He's clearly the horse to beat. I wouldn't be trying to beat this horse. In fact, I'm rooting for this horse to win by open lengths, because I think he's vulnerable in one more month, right? And so the best case scenario for that is that he wins here, beats this field, and then he's a big favorite come 4 weeks, or 5 weeks, or whatever it is. For a horse that he would have to improve for the Derby. He's not going to get this type of field in the Derby.
No way. This is a weak field.
Right.
It was a weak field. And then this horse is a head scratcher, right? This horse ran his guts out in the Remsen, and then came back and just kind of, I don't know. I guess we're saying he didn't handle the track. It kind of poured just before that race. But so what do you say? Was the Remsen an outlier, or is he better than that? Sam Davis, is he more the Remsen horse, or is he more the great horse before that? I don't know.
I think he's more the horse before that, and I'll compare him to Arctic Arrogance. I don't know if you want to pull that up or not, but I have it sitting in front of me right now. But Arctic Arrogance is the horse that finished second that day, and those two were side by side. And
okay.
In the Withers, yeah. And Arctic Arrogance, do you want to pull that up? Because actually these two horses, you could almost say the same thing. So 4.
The 7 was in that race too. Today,
Well, that I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, but he didn't do anything. But as far as like that race looking like an outlier, this horse has run twice since, and his numbers are more consistent with the numbers he was running before the Remsen than right. He's like
Yeah, yeah,
he's
yeah,
been pairing 90s,
yeah,
which is kind of what he was running before, drawing the line through that race.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. So I guess overall, the 11 looks like Forte looks like a legitimate favorite, but if he slips up, the 10's got a chance in this race. And I think from a long shot perspective, we talked a little bit about Mr. Peaks. He's going to have to overcome a lot, and maybe Madge. Why Sias is here for this race? He plots good to this horse, so maybe that's another one you can consider underneath. And Shaq Diesel, maybe if you're playing like the high five, the super high five or something like that, or even the superfecta, maybe that's a horse that can hang around for a piece. So is that all we need to say about that race?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Any comments by anybody?
Quite a few, actually.
Okay, should we take them or should we go on to the next race?
Well, let's see here. Let's go through these comments because I got to go back a little bit. They're gonna get post. Okay, they're gonna get scratched horses, so the post won't be a big deal. Okay, that's good point. I haven't heard anything, but that would certainly change it. I thought the quote was specific regarding the level over Forte. I don't know. I tried to look up I tried to find video of that quote to try to gain a little bit more information about it. The post 2 for 49 in the last 5 years. I think we discussed that a little bit further. The horse doesn't know he's in post 11. Certainly not. Forte 4 to 5 from post 11. LOL. Maybe it's a different post as we talk, but speaks to the quality of the field. Okay, so those two comments come together. Agreed. They got some clunkers in this race.
Yeah.
All right. I think Tappet Trice is Sias's Derby horse. Okay, interesting. Good point there. Fort Bragg seems slow to me. We talked about that. Forte might be the takeout reducer in the Derby. I like that. And then somebody just wrote Maggie. Yeah, I mean Maggie. I don't know.
Is that Madge or Maggie? Maggie.
It says Maggie, but if there's anybody called Maggie, I'd give him a shot in this race.
Well, that's the 4, I guess they mean, right? Okay.
I'm trying to make a joke. I'll bet it of a new face called Maggie in this race. Sure, why not? Throw him in the mix. Yeah. Oh, is that how you say it, Maggie? I guess. Maybe.
I don't know. It looks like Madge to me.
Yeah, I thought it was Madge because the horse is like a good magic.
Oh,
like
okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's horse. Like I would say, just he has ability. Like if the 11 slips up, then I think the 10's the next best horse, and then Madge, and then 5 or something. Okay. We're done with that, so we can move on to the next.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, so let's just look at the plot here, Emily. I mean, I think it's a pretty solid plot. It's a green plot. You could just see from all the way from the left, right, diagonally, the way this plot shapes. It's good, right? It's pretty solid. And you would say that the 7 kind of stands out. But I think, this goes to, I think this is a horse that's kind of done all he's going to do. I just think there's maybe other horses with more upside than the 7, in my opinion, but we can discuss that. I thought the 3, who looks to be the horse that is the speed of the race, could be a really under the radar, just because the fact that he ran so well against that race flow in the Risen Star, and the way it came back. I mean, you can look at the horse that actually won the Turfway Park race, Two Fills. I mean, he was the other horse that he hit the front like on the turn for home, and he kind of faded too. I mean, he was close to that race. He came back and won. We talked about him coming back and winning the Jeff Ruby Stakes big. So I just think that this horse was on the improve, and we'll get into it, but I think he kind of maybe could be the speed of this race. There's some contention, but not a big speed rating. Maybe a horse that can clear and maybe take this field, wire to wire. It's a possibility. So that was one thing. And then we'll I guess
my only thing with that is I don't think it's that under the radar, and I think this horse will be a lot shorter than the.
Okay, no, we'll see. I mean, that's a good point. We'll see, and we'll only know. Just look at the other horse that plots well is the 8, and to me, I think this horse is a legitimate favorite. I know you didn't like this horse's race as much as I did in the, I guess, what was that, the Rebel?
No, I like that. I thought that race was fun. I like that.
Oh,
I
okay,
actually
good,
thought
good.
that
Yeah.
was one of his better races.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was very subtly good because I think he got into some good trouble, but I just like the way he finished up in that race, and I just think he's a legitimate favorite in this race. Too.
Yeah.
Let's just get into it instead of just talking about. But I think those are the 3 that plot well, and the 3 and the 8 I like the best of those the horses that plot well. Let's start with Bourbon Bash. Go to it, kid. What do you think? This horse should be dropping or what?
Well,
You think?
maybe a little bit. I thought, the thing is he ran. If you go back and watch the Rebel, he shows a lot of run in there. So the horse has a lot of try. He has some ability, but when it really came down to like the actual like race running and like when it mattered late, he just looked a little bit overmatched. Yeah, there's a rider switch, as Charles loves the. Love the one here. Get professional jockey in this race. Raylo in the rail. Watch out. Plot might not fit with the jockey switch. Yeah. The plot has the one. I think not being forwardly placed. I think this horse needs to be on or near the lead, especially with the rail draw. I mean, if they try to take back and make a run again, they're going to get absolutely outkicked. But
Yeah.
it just in terms of tactics. But yeah, I mean, in terms of class, he just is not quite there. But there's something there to this horse. It's just this is a tough spot once again.
Yeah, I agree. Interlock Empire just broke his maiden.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I made a long shot case for this horse in that March 11th race because if you look at his form, you cover up that last race, it was a horse that was progressive. He was showing improvement on his speed figures. He was showing improvement on the Optix grades. That maiden field was not that strong that he ran against on March 11th, though there is one that's coming back that could be a little bit okay. But overall, that was kind of the time and place, and this is a big step up in another 3-week turnaround.
Yeah, pass. I mean, he does not plot well. Talked about this horse, in the Risen Star. I mean, he's another horse that was kind of on the improve. And I thought he ran, even in spite of that, he kind of still maintained the speed figure that he did from the last race, considering how disruptive that pace was. So I'm upgrading. You think he's going to be, shorter than he is? He's 15-1 in the morning line. I don't expect that, but he was 7-1 in the Risen Star. He's going to be at least 8-1, don't you think?
I don't
really.
That might. I mean, if he is, that's the ceiling.
Okay.
Because it's a race that I just don't. It's like Red Route 1 is going to be favored. I don't think people are going to be as or is he or Reincarnate?
Reincarnate's the favorite. Morning.
Yeah, even still, like Reincarnate.
That's what I'm saying. But you got 11 horses in the race. Those two are going to take, one's going to take 33%. One's going to take 20. So they're going to take about 40, 8% of half the neutral. I mean, this horse is going to be at least 8-1.
Well, he was shorter. Yeah, I mean, he was shorter than Angel of Empire, the 6.
I know. He was half the price.
Yeah, because the thing is, it's the connections, right? So the connections are going to get bet.
But unless they kind of get off of this horse, because they get the rider change. The horse, got beaten by 9 lengths. He's going to be. You think he's still going to be shorter than the horse that beat him?
I don't think he'll be shorter, but I don't think he's going to be.
No, if he's not shorter, then he's got to be. Look, he's going to be at least 8-1.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I mean, he could be the same as the 6. I just don't. I feel like that's the wise guy type horse. And noting that people did give him some attention in the Risen Star,
Okay.
thing. But yeah.
Two Eagles River.
I
What do
mean,
you
the case that you're making for Harlow Cap as an upgrade is the reason why you downgrade for Eagles River, because he had everything his own way on the front end. And when he's been pressed, he's not as efficient.
Yeah, I think he's,
Or when he has stock.
maybe more of a one-turn horse. I'm thinking.
Well, that's in the notes. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking like, this is our fallback, right? I'm like the Pat Day mile. We just say Pat Day mile. That's kind of our fallback. That's what I'm thinking. Oops.
Yeah.
Okay. Air time.
He's just a little bit slow and a little bit on the cheaper side.
Slow. Yeah, he's too slow. Okay, so this is the winner, right? And I think he took advantage of the flow in that race. He was 13-1 in the same race. I think this horse might have peaked. This is the horse that Saez was on. So you got to think, if he really thought, this horse won a grade 2. He's got the points. Don't you stay with this horse?
Well, like they said in the chat that if Tappet Trice is his Derby horse.
I know, but you want options, right? Don't you want options?
Yeah, but I think too, if they really wanted to get back on that horse for the Derby, they might have the idea.
Tappet Trice is no lock. I love the horse personally because I just think he's kind of just a marathoner, and he fits the kind of the mile and a quarter and the 12 furlongs. But he doesn't look like an easy horse to ride.
No.
All right. So the other thing I don't like about this horse is the gait issues, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Slow. Okay. I just think this horse is gone as far as he's going to go. He's a great horse. He's an honest horse. I like this horse, right? But I'm just thinking he is what he is, and I don't see him with a ton of upside. What's your thought?
I don't see him with a ton of upside either, but I also think he's the horse that's just going to offer. He's going to be the right number in this race to play, because if you go to the plot, if we go back to the plot, right, it's like there's kind of 4, 7, 8, right, that are all in that same spot. And like the 4 is a downgrade, so that's an X. Now it's like the 7 and 8, and it's like, well, 7's going to be longer than 8, so it's just sort of a no-brainer. And then he's going to have first run on the 6 and 10. So, like from that standpoint, I just think he's value in this race. I don't like him, but I think that 8 will take money, 10 will take money, 6 and 3. Not that the 7 won't, but I don't know if people are going to be as excited for that. I just think he's one of those horses that he's probably as good as anybody in this race, and he'll be the longest of those 3 horses, right? That are like the most likely. That's it.
Which are the most like 7, 8, and who's the other one? 10? What'd you say?
What was it? 6, 10. Yeah. 7, 8, 6, 10.
Yeah. I agree with that, but I like the 8. I still like the 8 better, way better than the 7. It's just my
okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that I don't like the 8 better, but if you're saying you're the 8's 2-1 and the 7 is 9-2, I don't really care who I like anymore. You know what I mean? I don't see them as that much of a separation.
Oh, I do. I just think this horse has got more upside. It's just what I think. Like I said, I think that Rebel was really good, actually. I just think that horse got into trouble, finished up really strong, and I don't know. I think he sits a better trip today because he had some trouble to start. He slowed to start, which is not kind of his normal thing. I think he's going to be much more forwardly placed today, and I think if you get 2-1 on him and in the exact or something, I think he's. I don't like to bet 2-1 shots, but I think 2-1 fair value on this horse. That's how I'm gonna think on him. But because again, I don't think he's facing all that much.
I don't think he was ever faced. I think that the Rebel was a very good effort. He surprised me in that race for how well he ran, because his other races were kind of just tough reads, because he was running against his stablemates in short fields. He won the Sham at 16-1, kind of with the race flow and with some still a blanket finish at the wire. And then the fact that he broke slow, and I mean that race was, kind of slowing late. I just, he's one that I kind of have to just see it again, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does it again. You know what I mean? So that's where I get less excited about taking a short price, while recognizing that he's logical.
Yeah, I think he's shown grit in his. I thought the Sham. I agree with you about the race, but I thought he showed grit in that race. I mean, I thought he dug in, and I thought he showed grit in the last race too, where it looked like he was like just beat bad, and he just went on again. I just think this horse has got some class to him, and I just think that I think he's ready for a top effort in this race. I don't know how he's trained. How's he training? Did anyone? Let me just look at his works here quick. Coming into this race, okay, looks fine. I mean, we just bait on raw time. Looks like he's in line with what he's doing. Okay, number 9, King Russell.
Slow.
Yeah, too slow.
Too slow.
Yeah, and then we talked about this one. We were high on this one both races. And he ran well. No knocks on his horse. I'm just wondering, with his run style, the distance, I'm just not completely. This is one of these things, is I don't know if he's going to run faster. Like, I think this is kind of what you talked about before. I think this horse kind of fits that category. Because he's got to kind of, anytime a horse has got to come from behind, they're kind of vulnerable. And I just think he might be vulnerable, especially the way the race shape is. I'm going to be playing against this one. Even though I was kind of on him last 2, I'm playing against him on this one.
Yeah, because the last 2 times he was under the radar coming into the Southwest off the potentially key race, the KYJC, and he was a big number and he ran a big race. And then the pace scenario suited him, going back to the plot for the grade 2 Rebel. And again, he was a very square number. He was almost 10-1 in that race. He's not going to be nearly that. He's going to be shorter.
And I thought he should have won that race, didn't you?
What's that?
Do you think he should? I thought he should have won the Rebel. Kind of flattened out a little bit, I thought, toward the end. I thought he had the race. I really did.
I gave him a B, and I think I gave the winner a B. So I don't know.
Who was the winner? Was that Sun Thunder? Was that
Confidence Game?
Confidence Game, right. That was the one you picked. Yeah, I don't know, but he's gonna be too short for me to take it this one. I'm guessing he's gonna be around 3 to 4 to 1, right, in that range. This horse is just too slow, right?
Very.
Yeah,
much too slow.
And I'm not even sure he can run on dirt.
Well, his numbers on dirt are much slower than his numbers on turf. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Hard to say.
Yeah. All right. So to me, I think the value, and we all debate on that, is the 3, and then the 8. I think is legitimate if he goes off the favorite. I think 2 to 1 would be fair with him, but that's my assessment. And Emily kind of thinks the 7 probably be value, just because he's just such a solid. He is such a solid horse. He shows up every time.
Yeah, I mean, it's that plot. He has a good plot. It's just basically based on the number, right? And like on the math at this point, it's not. I don't really have an emotional. I don't have a pick. I don't like anybody. Both these races, I don't like any horse. So it's like, what horse just might fall into a category where they become playable. He'll probably be longer than the 8, probably be longer than the 6, probably be longer than the 10. So if he's the 4th choice,
he will not be longer than the 6. I don't think. No way.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
the
don't
10 maybe, yeah.
maybe not, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like sometimes with the connections and coming off a win and Pratt getting a board and Brad Cox, I don't, the factors that make people gravitate in that direction.
Okay.
But maybe not. Maybe not.
All right. Well, those are the preps. Next week is a big week, right? We have the Keeneland starts racing, so we're going to get the Bluegrass, and then the Wood Memorial, and then the Santa Anita Derby. So,
Yeah.
whew,
Yeah.
big time. We're closing in. We should have a pretty good picture after those races are all done, and then it's on to the Kentucky Derby. Oh, I guess you got the Lexington is the week after. That'll be the last prep, and then we go. So, yeah, neat. All right. Anything else, Emily?
Well, that's not the biggest news.
Oh, what's the biggest news?
The biggest news is tomorrow I will be on the Hawthorne simulcast.
Hey,
Debut.
Hercules. And so you're gonna be on with Jim Miller, is that? Or
Yeah.
okay, cool. And so, how's that work? You on the whole time? I mean, is it?
So we're gonna do things. We're gonna do some things a little bit new, a little bit different. They might suck. They might be good. We'll see. Yeah. So I'll do the pre-race. This is kind of like a work in progress. We're trying to figure out what's kind of the best, and looking at some areas that we've experimented with that we think people like, we think people are value and want to do more, and incorporating that instead of having kind of just the regular, the simulcast thing, right? So I'll do the pre-race show, which is about 30 it's like 45 minutes before first post. Is about that. And you got to turn your sound up because they asked me to give top 3 picks, and I said I'm not doing it. People got to listen, and I'm going to analyze the races, right? So a little bit different. Maybe that doesn't work. Maybe people. Do you like it?
Yeah, of course I do.
I mean, the thing is, from my perspective, is if you're gonna have me on to like talk about races, then listen. Like if you just want 3 numbers on the screen, then like just post.
Yeah, you could put them in one of those machines, a random generator machine,
right, and
a lottery printer.
Yeah, and I mean, we just don't, as players, like we don't play that way. I mean, sometimes it works out that way. Sometimes you handicap the race, and those horses are your opinion, and that's how the odds shake out that they're super acceptable, and like you're able to work with those. Sometimes not. Sometimes those are your top 3 picks because that's who you feel is the most likely. Then the odds board comes out. This happened on Sunday in this maiden race. If I was asked to give my top 3 picks, it would have been, let's just say 1, 2, 3. But there was a 9 horse who I didn't think was necessarily the most likely winner, but the horse should have never been 30-1 and won at like 35-1. So
Right.
That becomes a bet, and it wouldn't have come up on the screen. But if you're able to go like we do when we're players and you assess odds, especially in a tournament, right, where you're looking at the board and you start going like, oh, well, I like that horse, but the odds are too short. Like who becomes playable? And that's how you play. So that's where I'm trying to like go in that direction. It's a lot harder to do like 45 minutes before the race starts, but at least like it's going to go that way. I love that approach. Thank you. And then eventually, so what we want to do eventually is then incorporate that to actually like right before the race, because then that's when the information is the most valuable. That's when you can start talking about, here's who, my subjective opinion is based on the handicapping, but looking at the board, my third choice is now my top choice. I didn't really care much for this horse, but they look great on the track, and like, whatever, I start to do that in real time. And but until we get to that point where that's happening for every race, I'll be on to discuss that style in race 4 every day, which coincides with our free online NHC contest for Hawthorne. And if you're in the chat and you haven't registered for that, there's still plenty of time because it starts on Sunday. It's free, and it's the Hawthorne race is race 4 and race 7 every day based on a mythical $2 win place show. And then the highest bankroll at the end, NHCC. So we're trying to like pair it with that and just kind of see how that goes. But
Cool.
that starts tomorrow.
Cool. Well, I'll be looking forward to that. I'll be listening to that. Are they going to put like graphics on the bottom, like maybe your assessment of it? Like it'd be better to have like my assessment of the race, like favorite bad, XYZ, or some kind of a statement versus trying to like give the picks, but just kind of an overall, like your opinion of that race, like open maiden race, look for long shots, greater than 10-1 or something along those lines, kind of like what we do in Focus, like kind of our introduction to Focus,
Yeah, it's well, one, I mean, I think that's super value, but it's like we know when we do Focus, it's hard to do ahead of time because of it being ahead of time, but also within this show, we really only have like 90 seconds, 2 minutes to a race to preview, right?
Right.
So it's like you're like flipping graphics and like doing all this and like to try to make it
it's a lot of prep work.
Yeah, and it's a lot for like the production too, to have like a million slides, but essentially, without having that graphic, that's what I'm going to try to do in this race, in this analysis, in that 90 seconds to 2 minutes, is to basically just talk the pace scenario, talk about the expected favorite, whether that horse is strong, weak, vulnerable, no value,
right.
Where kind of some alternatives are.
And so, by the way, I'm going to be on podcast this weekend, going up through the Pick 5 at Florida Gulfstream Park, Florida Derby. And the Pick 5, we're going to be on King of Sports with Scott Carlson and my buddy Chris Larmy. So I don't know if I was supposed to announce that. I think I announced it before they did. But anyway, it should be fun. We always have a good discussion, a lively discussion, and it looks like a very kind of like formful sequence to some extent. But I think there's a way you can maybe make some tickets that could bring home some value in there. But got to get a little creative. So hopefully we'll give some information to make people hit that thing. So I think that goes out on Friday evening or something like that. So stay tuned for that.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, everyone. And again, by the way, we're going to Optix EQ. We're going to be doing the Focus for this Pick 6. So I'm kind of did my homework on that. So kind of on our way to getting that done. And so that if you buy the silver plan, you get that as part of the silver plan. So it should be good information. Breaks down the races. I think it's 9 through 14. Pick 6 on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. So that's it. Anything else, Emily?
Last couple comments. End of Gulfstream meet, historically chalky. True or false? True?
Well, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have data on it, but
is it like post 11 where sometimes it's situational? We can't just
can't make it. I would say that looks like Saturday's races. They look kind of formful. But I didn't look at Sunday. I don't know. I guess is Saturday the end or Sunday? I don't even know. I guess the good thing is probably they'll have a big carryover mandatory payout on Sunday, I would imagine, or something like that.
It looks like Sunday's the close because that's at least past performance wise.
So so I'll take a look at that. That might be. Anything else? Any other comments?
I think that's it. Anybody else? Last chance. That's it.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next week. And next weekend's a big weekend, and check us out at Optix EQ and all the stuff. Check out Emily and Hawthorne simulcast tomorrow, and have a good night. Take care.